Everything is energy, and from there, they're capable of doing anything. They also have a core premise about lineage. Lineage is so important to them. They trace their lineage back as far as they can trace it. They say that, they're the original star seeds.
Is there like a little bit of animosity back going, saying, hey, we're a little bit older than you?
Well, it's funny because the Arcturians, when they start into a lead sentence, especially with the Orions, they'll say, well, we're much older than you.
Oh.
And so, I don't know if that's to put them in their place or whether that's to convey, we have more wisdom. I'm not sure which it is because while they don't react to things, there's usually a little bit of banter back and forth on that. So I think that that's very important to them. It is about the knowledge. So I believe that, the Arcturians are saying, we've been around far longer, therefore we have more knowledge. You can learn from us too. Do they share it straight across? No, you got to work for it. So I think that's interesting.
That is funny, actually.
It is, right. So while we say we have a lot of emotions and they don't, I believe that's one way in which they do show some emotion, is that you have to work for it. I'm not just going to give it to you. And so I've seen that happen more than once with them.
It looks like logic has replaced emotion.
Yes.
And I'm logically better than you because I have more knowledge.
That's an interesting word too, because they will take critical thinking over logic.
Wow.
And for a lot of people, they can't distinguish between the two, but they do. They say, we will critically think something through before we will apply logic to it.
That's fascinating.
So I think that that's where we should be. But that's one of the core things, is looking at that lineage. It's very important to them. It's the way in which they see. So we're talking about the frequency now. All those lineages have a frequency. And so that's what they're identifying us by. We tell people, find out what your cosmic identity is. You can go to our website. We'll show you how to do that, because that's the way in which they're seeing us, is by our cosmic identity, our origination energy. And so when they're looking at their map or they're getting to know people, it is by that cosmic identity.
So we are some of the youngest ones out here right now.
Yes, we're the babies.
We're the babies.
Right. But what I find interesting is they say, our law is based on the 42 universal laws, okay? And we've had a discussion about that before. It's very important. But the number one law is the law of one, that you have unconditional love, you serve others, and that you live by the eternal truths, which are the universal laws. I mean, they look at that and they say, how can you ask for anything more? But what they're talking about really is this thing that is our core being, that spiritual higher self that lives within us. And that's the thing that should be living to these other qualities. So really, we can come up with a lot of different answers, but if we just stick to what they know, this is tried and true, this is where they've been for millions of years, our evolution would be much better.
Off the camera, we talked about the great chain of life. Why don't you tell us about that?
Sure. This is another core premise that they have, really, that we all belong to that chain of life, that we all have evolutions that we're supposed to go through. We all have lessons to learn. We all should be becoming a higher state of being. I mean, these are the core principles of that great chain of life, and that it's cyclical. It comes and goes, with the other cycles that are occurring in the universe. And so they really think that that's an important thing to understand. And some people, they feel, or we'll not say people, we'll say beings. Some beings abuse that chain of life by, creating dominance over other beings.
Right.
And they want us to understand that as that chain of life, we should be free, that's what we're meant to be. We were created to, expand the knowledge of the source. And so you can't do that if you're not operating as the unit of source. And so this great chain of life really is about us being able to come together and become part of that living, breathing source.
The intelligence of energy, how does that shape the understanding of our universe?
Well, in their core memories of how things work, they believe that source is an intelligent energy, that it's self-realized. And in self-realizing, it
You mean
decided
conscious?
conscious, right?
Okay,
And
all
it self-realized and became aware of itself. And as it became more aware, it determined that it could create another awareness. And so that began the creative process. And it is through that learning. So as something is created, that must go on. It becomes part of that chain of life. It has to become aware and on to the next. And so, that's how they see the universe as developing. And there's a couple of times where they've pointed out, look at this nebula. That's what's happening, is that it's becoming self-aware. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I would have never looked at it like that before. But I thought, after I thought about it, I thought, wow, if I was becoming self-aware, I would see all those colors and things because I would have no context with which to put it in. And so I thought that was a wonderful thing to be able to point to that and say, there's a self-awareness happening, and that eventually it will evolve to something else through that self-awareness. It will begin to create new planets and, new systems and things like that. So what a wonderful way to think that, not only is it happening inside us, but we can see it all around us in nature and, in the cosmos. And so when they pointed that out, I mean, it was just like, wow.
It's right there this whole time.
Exactly. And I'm part of that, right? And so I just took that away as saying, what a great moment to understand how we fit in the scheme of things. So it is that self-awareness that this intelligent energy is having. But it also has to go through a process where they say it needs to continue to learn. And it learns from its creations. And so, one of the teachings that we have is that, we have experiences for a reason. We need to recognize the influence that experience has upon us, so we need to take something away from it. And hopefully it's something positive so that we can become more aware and change our perception. And so I think it's the same thing that they're relaying, is that the source has to go through the same thing, through its creations, is to be able to experience and then keep the creative energies flowing. So I think it's a wonderful way to look at it.
That's how it's evolving then.
Yes, right. So, it's an evolutionary process that's occurring every moment.
What is cosmic identity?
Cosmic identity, okay.
And how do they understand that? How do they recognize this?
So they recognize it as your original energy. And your original energy from the time it was created is around to become many, many different things. And so your original energy is who you're going to be no matter what. That's how they identify us, is by these tribes,
right.
Okay? And there's 20 tribes that are the original tribes. Mm-hmm. And so they are identifying with one of those of the 20 tribes. And it is by your energy, not by your lineage at that point, okay? So you had an original energy. This is the way they see you. It has everything to do with your frequency. This is, if they're going to look for a specific being, it is by that energy that they're looking. They don't see this vehicle.
No way, yeah.
Right. And so it's very important for everybody to understand their cosmic identity. And I've had people throughout the years, like I say, I've been doing this for 60 years, that they find their cosmic identity, and the more they get to know about their energy, the more they realize, this is who I really am. I'm not the facade that I created. This is who I really am, and it allows them to get down to a better level and become a better being. So I think it's very important that, because that's the way they believe, we should also continue to understand that and believe as well.